What's going on, YouTube? It's Brian. How are we doing today? So, today we're going to be talking side hustles. While you watch me do whatever edits or anything else that I was doing on the computer this day. We're not talking about editing, learning to edit, writing, any of that stuff. No, those are helpful skill sets, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. So while you get settled in here, let's talk side hustles. There's a couple that I've actually tried. Some worked. Not all of them worked as well as I would have liked to. Some worked better than others. So why have a side hustle?
So before we watch me talk about what side hustles I've tried over the last couple of years, really sit down and ask yourself, A, what type of resources do I have to give towards a side hustle? That's time, money, or physical things that you already have around you, whether that's tools, etc. That could also be skill sets that you already have. So whether you already know carpentry, you already know how to work on cars, you already know how to work with cameras, and maybe you're a great writer, maybe you are great with computers. There's all sorts of skill sets. So ask yourself, what type of skill sets do I have? What type of resources do I have? And then ask yourself, is the money that I'm going to use this for, or the goal, I guess, should be the money that I'm going to use this side hustle to make, that is going to then pay for X, and is X a need or a want? For somebody like myself who doesn't have a whole lot of bills, doesn't have a whole lot of expenditures on a month-by-month basis, I live in a smaller house and I live in an affordable city, I don't have children, etc., etc. There are going to be different things that you want to take a look at when it comes to your side hustle and how you want to spend your time. So A, do that quick inventory of what you have to start off with. Ask yourself, how much time are you willing to commit? Because a lot of side hustles is literally just figuring out, I have X amount of time, I have X skill sets, and if I put this together, I can do this while I'm not at my other 9 to 5 or whatever day job, night job, whatever job you have. So now we're gonna watch me get started and talk through a couple of the things that I did over the last couple of years.
So here I am, trying to get ready to start DoorDash, and I got my camera mounted up on my dash and trying to figure out a camera angle where I could talk to the camera and see if I could get a decent picture, but that didn't exactly work out the way that I wanted it to. Anyway, so here we are at Smoothie King, picking up first order on my DoorDash route.
Everybody knows.
Getting stuck in traffic, dropped it off here in just a second. And you know what, frankly, I got stiffed on my very first DoorDash order, and that kind of put a bad taste in my mouth, so I headed directly for the highway and headed out to Illinois to hang out with some friends. As you can see, I caught a beautiful sunset. Let's shift gears into selling watches, huh? So now we are looking at a Mito Multifort. This is a watch that I bought for under $250 and sold for, I believe, over $450 after shipping. Love this watch, and it was something that I got to wear for like a year and a half. On to a Hamilton chronograph that I had bought for about $650 on Facebook Marketplace. Really lucky local find, and sold this for over $1,000. So great quick flip, and I got to wear this a couple of times as well. On to a beautiful Alpina diver watch. This is the C-Strong 300 in bronze with a aftermarket strap on there. This is a watch that I got for right around $400 on Facebook Marketplace. Now, we all know the crown, we all know the Jubilee bracelet. This is a Datejust with a olive green palm dial that I helped source for a member of a country club that I helped manage the restaurant side for, but this was a deal where this was the first time that I got to source a watch for somebody and deal with other dealers. Couple more Instagram photos and posts that I had made. Forgive the old photography before. So this is a video that I'm going to be talking over, and obviously the words aren't going to match, but I sold cars for a short period of time, and here's why this is important. Selling cars, you can make a good amount of money doing. This is a Dodge Challenger video that I was sending to a customer, and you'll see it start speeding up here in just a second. But my point in saying this is you need to know how to sell stuff. Also, selling cars teaches you about cars, and nowadays, as you can see from this video, this was one of the very first videos that I ever edited on CapCut. which is actually what I'm using to make this video right now. But this was a very helpful skill set because it was an introduction to CapCut and to video editing, which obviously now I'm using a bit more today. So forgive the poor editing and the choppiness and whatnot, but just keep in mind you can make six figures selling cars. You don't work that much. You will have to deal with some jerks, but stay lucky. Alright, so now we're going to talk a little bit about this enveloping side hustle that I found. So basically what it is you write sweepstakes envelopes that have a certain card and a certain process that you need to write specifically what they want you to write, and you send it into online casinos. And what they do is they select, it can be 1%, it can be 10%, it can be 50% of these envelopes that you write in to count towards vouchers or credits towards gambling at their online casino. Now, here's the thing. It takes about it took me about 40 hours to write through enough of these to get to 1,000 to send in. So I sent in them over the course of a month, and over the course of that month, a handful of them got accepted, and I was able to gamble on Chumba Casino, and yeah. This was something that I definitely thought was going to be like easy cash. I ended up making a little bit of money, but you have to keep in mind, this is gambling. You don't necessarily win every single time that you get to do it. So you might have a whole bunch of vouchers, quote unquote, that go through and you don't win any money on them. And then you might have one out of a 500 batch that gets accepted, but you might win $1,000 on that one play. So it is gambling at the end of the day. Keep that in mind. So here I am just walking through my house on fast forward because I kept playing around with different video equipment. I kept playing around with different photos and different apps and different things to try to create content and try to continue to get better as I was pursuing not really having a side hustle for a little bit of time. So as you can see, I'm kind of playing through with the DJI Osmo 5. This is the content creator kit that I started with after I left the dealership. So you can see I've got one pole camera mount, and then I've got my mobile camera setup that is mostly small rig and New Weir products. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but 2 terabyte SD, lav mics, the rig, multiple lenses. But soon I got my social media together, and I actually got a brand sponsorship from Find the Good brand. So I became a brand ambassador for them. Here's my links, and here's a quick commercial that I shot in my really poorly lit office about a year ago when I first started recording for YouTube.
Watch box right there. These guys have been a great partner to me ever since I reached out to them right around the same time I was getting sober. You know, they decided to give me a brand ambassadorship, which made no sense to me. But they liked my story. I liked it.
But I haven't made any money with the brand ambassadorship, so we're going to move on to starting an Etsy shop. This is some of my grandmother's art. So art has always been in my family, and there is a good possibility that we're going to try to do some sort of a give back program with that. I kept creating logos, kept creating different things. I tried posting on YouTube. My first couple of videos I really didn't like. Here's one of the thumbnails. I do have an addiction story that I'm going to try to tell, but it didn't really get any traction, so it is what it is.
Alright, so now that we've watched me do and talk through a couple of different side hustles that I tried over the last couple of years, selling watches, I made a little bit more. Enveloping, I got lucky. Again, it's a gambling thing, so I'm not going to take any credit for any earnings there. And then I've spent a lot of time creating content and practicing creating content and learning about creating content. Hours watching YouTube videos, hours practicing making videos just like this that will never see the light of day. Researching products for gear as far as who makes good camera gear for mobile phones, because that's what I'm shooting on right now. Who makes the best office gear in terms of lighting, in terms of sound. Paying attention to when you're just chilling watching a podcast or chilling watching a YouTube video, paying attention to how they're doing things. And I've even taken minor courses on filmmaking for mobile. I've done a lot of skill acquiring and practicing in the background. When no one was paying attention, I wasn't trying to post anything for clout or anything like that. A lot of the stuff that I've been posting over the past couple of years on socials has literally just been my practice. So knew whether content creation was going to be something that I was going to try to make an income off of. At this point, I'm doing this out of the sheer need to get things off my chest, feel creative, and feel like I'm doing something worthwhile. And so that's why I'm deciding to share all this content now and actually go for it and see if there's a audience out there for it. So with that being said, I hope that you guys like the content that we're creating around here. I know we're just getting started, but there's going to be a lot more to come. So moving back into side hustles, part of the content that we are going to create is I want to create an Etsy shop, print on demand style. So it's not anything that's going to be crazy fancy, but it is going to be something that we are going to feature my grandmother's art. It's not going to be something that we take a big chunk of change from. Obviously, there are expenses in running a business, so those will have to get paid for. And we want to obviously recoup what we put into it. But as far as taking a big salary or taking mass profits or anything like that, that's not the goal of starting this. This is A, to create content, and then also B, to create a donation fund, for lack of a better term, where when there are good causes in the local art scene around St. Louis, that whether it's gallery space that needs renting or art that needs promotion or any of the like, then maybe we can help be a springboard for something like that. So we'll move on from there. There are other side businesses and courses and things like that that I've thought about, but most of my work experience is in the hospitality industry, and there's not a whole lot of online courses centered around that. There's not a whole lot of content creation centered around waiting tables, unless it's either people making fun of waiting tables and making fun of all of the inside jokes around the hospitality industry. There's a lot of content creators that do that. That's not really something that I do. I do laugh at that continuously, as that does pop up on my feed a lot. There are a couple other side hustle type businesses that could be along the lines of hospitality training, server training, bartender training, management training. There's a big gap in terms of what left the hospitality industry when COVID hit. So there is a big training gap of people that had a ton of experience that left and never came back, and all that skill set is why you see so many issues in the restaurant industry today, in my humble but honest opinion. So yeah, we might do something with hospitality training. Honestly, I think the biggest side hustle in the world that hopefully becomes back in vogue, for lack of a better term, is waiting tables. I know that there are generations of people who have worked in restaurants, paid through college, paid for kids' daycare, paid for extra bills, paid for studio time, all because they either waited tables or bartended. Learn the people skills that you have to learn in order to be a good bartender or a good server, and turn that into a side hustle. So maybe we'll talk about that for a quick 5-minute side hustle video of just how to wait tables and how to be good at it and how to make a decent amount of money, how to find a good restaurant to work in, all those sorts of things. Because honestly, I do believe that hospitality is a great way to make money. And honestly, I get a lot of, like I've said, I get a lot of joy out of what I do for a living. So with that being said, I hope this video helps. I hope that YouTube is finding you well. I hope that you're learning something today. I hope you're having a productive day wherever you are. But I'm only going to ask this a handful of times, guys. But if this content is hitting home for you, please like, share, subscribe, whatever helps the algorithm. Yeah, that's it, guys. Then are you going to have the commitment to stick it through and not call out on yourself? Because there's nothing that is more defeating in my eyes than when you make a commitment to yourself and you don't follow through. So this was something that was important to me to do, was to start this YouTube channel. So whatever it is that's important for you to do, make sure that it's something that you're willing to stick by, make the commitment to see it through, and make sure that it's something that you can sustain long term, because especially if this is something that's new to you, you're not going to have that 10,000 hours of practice to be really good at something. So you got to earn money while you're figuring out how to incorporate that 10,000 hours of practice. So make sure that you're thinking about these things before you get started. So